Paperback. 1 and 2 and 1. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, lean on in there and get all over that microphone. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. We got Ryan in the house. We got Dr. Parker in the house. I think I'm in the house. On today's episode, the mistake that will change your life. Not just a mistake, but the mistake. How's that sound? Ooh.
Sounds good to me.
Have you ever made a mistake?
No.
Not me.
Have you ever made a mistake?
This is going to be really good. This is going to be a really good one to wrap up 2024 with, because I think I like the way you're going, the direction you're heading in, the mistake that can change your life. It's going to, we talk a lot about how this whole premise behind this podcast is changing the perspective of how you see the world.
Sure.
Changing the way you think, which changes your perspective and gives you the freedom that you didn't have with the old perspective. Well, this is a perspective change that could be huge.
Exactly. And it requires you to have total self-control. And everything we teach you on this podcast, everything we discuss, as we've demonstrated or suggested.
99 times.
That's from a famous person, by the way. So.
Okay.
Whatever is lovely, whatever is noble, whatever is worthy, think on these things. Do as I have suggested or demonstrated.
Got that.
And this is something that when you are able to control your thought processes, when you are able to control your perspective, you are able to control you, and then you can take this next step. Okay. And discover how mistakes can be the thing that change your life.
So you're saying that we can actually become mistake championers?
Okay.
Yeah. So instead of being fault finders, we become mistake championers, like take something that was maybe meant for harm and make it good.
Oh, there you go. Something meant for harm, something that could be harmful.
Sure.
And what's running through my head is a guy got it this week for a second. He got it.
A guy got it
For a second this week. And
yep.
And this would be actually something similar to what we're talking about, but he was mad at somebody about something. And he stopped, and instead of focusing on what they did that he was mad about, he chose to focus on what he could do that would be enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And he started writing this list of things that he could do and as he wrote the list, he started like looking at things he could do tomorrow, next week, a year from now, 2 years from now. And as he was focusing on where he could take these things and do stuff that was enjoyable and do, positive and rewarding, as he started thinking that away, he said, I got it. And for about a second, I was in freedom. I saw what you were talking about.
Yeah.
But he's new to it, and it kind of slipped away from his fingertips.
Yeah.
But he experienced it.
Yeah.
For a couple of minutes.
He
there
tasted
was this
it.
Freedom. And that freedom comes when you change how you think, when you transform by the renewing of your mind. You are able to experience this wonderful moment. The more you practice this stuff, the longer those moments can be, until it's most of the day that you're living in freedom. That gives you power over you, and then allows mistakes to be transformative. Mistakes can improve, change your life.
So why is it that you are throwing out the idea that mistakes are where it's at?
Well, as some of you may know, I do anger management. And I had somebody come into the office this week, and they've been working on some anger management, but they read the book about anger management that I wrote,
Mm-hmm.
Anger Management, Transform Anger into Advantage.
Mm-hmm.
And they came in and said, you need to take chapter 7 about assertiveness, take it out of that book and do a whole nother book on assertiveness, because that is where the power is. And, as the book explains, assertiveness is where the rubber hits the road.
Sure.
Because you can do all this stuff in your own head, but how do you take it out to other people and apply all this anger management you've been doing? How do you interact with other people? And that's through the skill sets of assertiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And as you wanted to do in the coming year, we will kind of walk through the book.
Yeah.
So if you haven't read the book yet, we'll give you some highlights of it each chapter. We're going to walk through the book in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
But, the stuff we're doing, the whole purpose of it, yes, one is to make you feel better, but then two, to improve your interactions with other people, whether it's people in your family, people at work, people in the church, your relationship with those people, your relationship with God, and your relationship with the broader community.
Yeah.
And that's where this mistake issue comes in.
Yep. So the reality is this. That's to make a really obvious statement, Ryan.
Yeah.
And by the way, how are you doing, buddy?
He's good.
Good.
Yeah.
Did you have a good Christmas?
Yeah.
Awesome.
What'd you get for Christmas?
I went Christmas and I went here a long time years. And then the phones and a Pierce.
Computer?
Whoa.
You got a new phone and a new computer
And I bought shirts.
and shirts from Tish.
Yeah.
Nice.
You got him some nice shirts.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So
good
while
Christmas.
you're on your computer and while you're on your phone, you are looking sharp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's good to see you, man. So the reality, and what I love about this, I say this sometimes at church, I say, what I'm getting ready to say is an all skate. Now, I don't think some people understand what I'm saying if they're too young. But all skates, if you're old like us, you know what that is. This is an all skate because we all make mistakes. So knowing that we all make mistakes, we have an opportunity to change the way we see things, to change our perspective and go from being, because it's weird, for whatever reason, we're kind of naturally bent towards being fault finders. We can go from being fault finders and we can actually be, like I was saying, champions of taking these moments, taking these mistakes and doing something good with them.
And that's where I think this becomes transformative because, well, and I've mentioned the story a couple times now about how the dog bit the end of my nose off and I had to get surgery, get my end of my nose reattached. And, but that actually turned out to be a major blessing because it helped me realize I had achieved a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it was a prayer and I asked God for it and he delivered, or it was a dream that I've created, whatever. But when I was 26, I made the declaration that I want to be able to afford my own doctor someday.
Mm-hmm.
And here it was, 6:30 in the morning, the dog bites me. And within 5 minutes, I'm in an ER with a highly trained physician who's got a plastic surgeon on the phone. And my medical doctor is on the other phone getting my prescriptions ready. And in 45 minutes to an hour, I've been stitched up. A physician walked out onto the street to hand me a prescription. So I didn't have to get out of the car. And another physician rearranged his schedule to see me in less than 24 hours after the injury. So I had realized the dream, but what it took for me to realize that I had realized the dream was the tragedy of the dog bite. So we pray for a lot of things, we ask for a lot of things, we work on a lot of things, but then these are the opportunities we're given to use those skills.
Mm.
This is where the rubber hits the road. And so the mistake that's going to change your life isn't necessarily your mistake. It's when other people make mistakes.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
and how do you respond to their mistakes? That's the part that's going to change your life and very possibly change their life.
Well, it changes their life because it's the last thing they expect. Somebody's actually going to forgive. I can't even forgive myself. Somebody's going to forgive me. And for whatever reason, forgiveness is something that God has blessed me with the ability to do pretty easily. And I think it mostly has to do with a very short memory. What a blessing.
Hey.
Okay, sure, you're forgiven because I'm going to forget about it in about 5 minutes. And so forgiving, it's not as hard as we make it out to be. When we literally see ourselves as unworthy to be someone who is unforgiving,
Mm-hmm.
it changes us. I have made so many mistakes in my life. I'm going to make mistakes in my life. Therefore, who am I to think that someone else shouldn't be forgiven or there can't be anything positive that can come from a mistake that was just made? And I believe that people can change. I believe in change that comes from the source of God. I just believe in that. And so it's, while I can say that really true life-changing, life-lasting change is somewhat rare. You know, we all tend to have our spots.
Right.
We all have our blind spots. But I've seen it enough that I don't just believe in it. I've seen it. I have the beauty. This is the best part of my life. The best part of my life is that God has blessed me with an amazing wife. And you're going to go, don't do that.
Hey.
Don't do that.
This one's serious, folks.
Yeah. But it's that God has given me, he's blessed me with a front row seat to watch what he can do in people's lives. And it's 9 times out of 10 birthed out of some kind of a mistake or sin, whatever it is, some kind of a reality that change is necessary. And then once that surrender comes from that change, the mistakes become a huge part of the blessing. Because what do you have to balance it against? And then you get to go from seeing the old turn into the new. God is doing a new thing. It's just, I love this topic because that's where like you said, the rubber meets the road, when we are willing to accept not just our own mistakes, but other people's mistakes and put it in God's hands, see what he can do with it.
And what's interesting is throw something out like that and then sit back and kind of listen to where people take it.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I'm thinking is, they served you the wrong coffee.
Things.
They came into your lane without turning on their turn signal. You ordered something and they deliver something else, or they forget about you. We went to dinner one night and like everybody else is getting their plates and we're not getting our plates, and like 30 minutes go by and then suddenly we get our plates and Tish leaned in and said, "Yeah, they forgot about us. They served our food to somebody else." And I could see that in the waitress's eyes. And mistakes happen all the time. How do you want other people to respond to you when you make those mistakes? If you've driven down the highway and, gotten into the other lane, not realizing there was another car there, and like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. How would you like them to respond to you in that moment? You're serving somebody coffee or sandwiches and you hand them the wrong one. You made a mistake. Mm-hmm. How would you like for them to respond to you in that moment?
I believe the reason that I don't have road rage, and I don't,
I don't have road rage. I'm so thankful for that. But I think it's because I suffer a little bit of PTSD from an experience that I had up in Wisconsin. One time I was up on a business trip all by my lonesome. Back in the days where you only had a pager. You didn't have a cell phone. The only connection to the world that you had back home was a pager. And then when you got a page and you needed to call back home, you had to go find a payphone. And 9 times out of 10, the payphone was either being used or broke. And so we had to have a lot more patience back then. But I ran into a situation where I made a mistake and pulled right. If you picture Christmas Vacation, the movie where the guys are coming up behind Clark and the family and they're in the big truck and they're like all over his tail. And I did that. I pulled right out in front of a dude in a big old truck. And this dude, I could just see in the mirror, he was about 6'9". He was a big dude and he was hot. He was madder than a wet hen. I was in my little Bonneville with Kansas tags. And that's worse too. When you're in a visiting state, you're a visitor. Everybody who's from a different state is a moron. So now I'm driving along and he's just tailgating me, honking his horn, blasting, pointing, wanting me to get pulled over. And I ain't about to do that. And I don't carry. And so I just kept driving. Like I slouched down and I turned old. And I just kept driving. I didn't pay any attention to him. And then pretty soon, the Lord worked a miracle. He just turned. But that was seared into my mind. And it has kept me from road raging. But it's also kind of a little bit of an analogy of, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be the one who takes somebody's faults and just shames them with it and guilts them with it.
And what I do want for you,
go ahead,
is to be the other driver and to, when somebody pulls out in front of you like that, to recognize he probably didn't see me.
Gotcha. Yep.
He probably miscalculated acceleration onto the ramp, onto the highway. And I'm going to have to let off the gas pedal and slow down from 75 to 73 and delay my entire trip by 1 second to let this guy in.
Yeah.
He made a mistake.
You made a mistake.
I let off the gas pedal. I wave at him.
Yep.
Let him get up to speed. Pass him if I need to. Oh my God, I got to turn the steering wheel. Oh. Pass him if he's driving slow. And it's, the Jocko, good.
Right.
Somebody served you the wrong coffee. Good. Somebody served you the wrong sandwich. Good. Somebody forgot the appointment. They said, good. Because that gives me a chance to practice everything I've been learning.
Mm-hmm.
I control me. How do I want things to be? Let's plan for what goes wrong. Let's dream of what we want to go right. Let's focus on the positive instead of the negative. So when somebody makes a mistake, I ask for the correct coffee. They say, I'm sorry. I say, no problem, and stand there waiting patiently. You never know what's going on in the other person's life.
I have no clue.
As to what led to that mistake or to what's going on behind the scenes, and they made this mistake. And your small amount of grace can be life-changing for that person.
From a fault finder to a grace giver.
There was a
huge shift.
Lady I met a couple of years ago when I was doing my first book, and she was explaining the course of her life. And she said when she was a teenager, she was in foster care, life was just, all against her. And she didn't realize she was walking around angry all the time. And she was walking through the store and there's this old man staring at her. And she looked at him and said, what are you staring at? And this is what she pointed to as the life-changing moment for her.
Mm.
She snapped at him, what are you staring at? And he just nodded his head and said, you're a lovely lady and you'd be more lovely if you smiled.
Mm.
And he walked off.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get mad at her for yelling at him. He didn't shoot back at her. He didn't throw something at her. He didn't curse her out. Essentially, he forgave her in that moment, said something nice back.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the change agent in her life. She said, from that moment on, I began to realize how I was feeling, how I was coming off to other people. And I began to count all the blessings that I do have and started to take my life in a different direction. And it was that 3-second interaction with somebody when she mistakenly snapped at him for just happening to be looking in her direction. And I see on the news all the time, somebody gets served small fries instead of large fries at McDonald's, and the person comes across the counter and starts tearing stuff up and, throwing things around. It's when somebody makes a mistake, you now have a chance to put into practice everything we've been teaching you on this podcast for the last year. For the last 99 episodes.
99.
This is number 99.
Yep.
100's coming up.
Yep.
And all this learning in these 99 episodes, all this learning you've done in the book, all this learning you've done in your therapy, these are the moments when you have the opportunity to practice,
Mm-hmm.
to do what you've been studying and training to do. Transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you may know his will in that second. How does he want you to respond?
Mm-hmm.
And so when somebody makes a mistake, you have been presented an opportunity.
That's what it is. It's an opportunity.
And this is the crazy thing is, forget the other person, because we can't control the other person, right?
Yep, right.
Not rude, can't control them, so I'm not responsible for them. But how we respond to them, we will walk away feeling good.
Mm-hmm.
If we handle their mistake with grace and dignity and courtesy, forgiveness, we walk away from that scenario feeling better.
100%. That's good, Doc. Brian, you got anything to say?
Yeah. I went being out and then wake up morning and then I got pick up trash up and here's sound noise and the two boys crap off.
Okay.
And then the cars and I'm moving
Okay.
Headache.
Anything you want to say to wrap up?
like people.
Okay.
Love God, love people, take every opportunity you can. And a lot of times it's in the middle of a mistake because we're all broken. 99 in the books, Doc.
99.
99 next week. We got 100th episode. That's hard to believe.
Yeah.
100. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for continuing to like and share. We're up to 44,260 some, I think, subscribers.
Not that anybody's counting.
No, nobody is. Hello, my name is Nobody. Happy New Year to everyone. Have an awesome week.
See ya.
Today.
Yeah.